Okay, today's interview for Coconuts TV is with Ian Darler, who has watched Cambridge United develop since the early days with the club. Ian, thanks for inviting us along today. It's good to speak to you, thank you. Ian, tell us where you were born and where you grew up.
Traditionally a Cambridgeshire lad, was born in Ely. Sort of started off as at the junior school of Shirley Infant School in Chesterton, moved across to Arbury Junior School, where I was really lucky that the headmaster was really sport orientated, which was unusual really in those days. And I quickly went through as a youngster to be the school captain, and probably had a privileged life at school because of my ability within sport.
Now, while at school you played for your junior school. Later on I believe you played for Cambridge City Schoolboys.
That's correct, yeah. Again, really fortunate to be offered the chance to sort of represent the city.
Yeah. And how far did you get before you realised that that was the limit of your footballing talents?
I think once I sort of was very fortunate to get in one of the senior sides at the time, which was Cambridge Hornets. It was run by Vince Donnelly, and managed to get through, and in the end playing for Cambridge Hornets became quite boring, because if you didn't win by 10 goals there was something wrong. Traditionally we'd win 20-0 or 21-0 or something like that, but a number of those players were selected to go on trial at different clubs. I had trials at Norfolk, or Norwich City, and at Peterborough, and on both occasions got told that I got enough skill but was not the right build. Ron Saunders actually told me that had I got a bit more about me weight wise and whatever, then I would have perhaps had a chance. But equally there was a big lad sitting next to me who turned around and told him that had he got a bit more skill. So I just realised that that was the banter that Ron Saunders did use to get people out the door who were basically useless. So I sort of accepted then that I was not going to make it as a footballer.
Okay, and one of your clubs that you played for as a youngster was Arbury Junior School. Yeah,
I was. That's where I was very fortunate. Like I said, the headmaster there, Mr. Bagnall, took me under his wing, and I have to say I was a favoured pupil at Arbury for a certain time, anyway.
And does that include the time that you were actually, I believe, the first player ever to be sent off?
Yeah, it's not one of my most popular moments, but we were playing in a game, and it was one of the school competitions that most people who know me know that I sort of do things quite, or try to do things seriously or as professionally as I can, and I wouldn't say I'm a bad loser, because I think you have to have winners and losers in life, but at that time we were given a penalty. It was 1-1. I took the penalty and I missed, and I swore, which was totally unacceptable in those days with my headmaster, and I was shown the red card, and I had detention for a week, and the detention was that I had to dub in on all the balls for a week, and that was my punishment. So not something that I'm proud of at the age of 8 or 9, I think it was 8, to be sent off, but unfortunately it's continued.
And your past follows you to this day. Here we go. Okay, now when you left school, let's think about the time you left school. Yep. Was it your ambition to carry on in sport at that time?
I think initially I'd looked at trying to be a teacher, but didn't end up with the qualifications that I needed, because I was a little horror at school. In those days it was one of those things where you had to select what you wanted to do for your lessons, and I put down motor mechanics, woodwork, and metalwork, and the school promptly put me in chemistry, physics and biology. To this day I'm not proud of what I did, but in those lessons unfortunately I used to bunk off. Probably hence the reason why I've been such a good angler, is because my mum never ever knew that I'd be quite happy to wait for her to go to work, bunk off, take me fishing stuff, go down the cam, and then obviously be home before she got home, and she never did know until the report came through about all my absentees. Something I'm not proud of, but I knew that it was never going to be any use to me, sort of dealing with chemistry and whatever. Had I known at the time I was going to go into greenkeeping, and you need all of this science side, I may well have had a change of views, but you're always wise afterwards, so I wouldn't sort of advise anybody to bunk off, not that you can do now anyway, but again I'm not proud of it, but it was the way the school was run in them days.
Now I'm told, I've been told even before we came here, that your other great love in life was angling.
Yep.
How did that start out?
I think again, initially the angling side of it, it was sort of bred into me through my grandfather, who was sort of well known in and around Cambridge. But as a youngster, again, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit, I always wanted to do the best and be the best. And I got involved with Percy Anderson, who was one of the leading anglers certainly in Cambridge and fish for the country. And he took me under his wing. I became almost one of his first angling apprentices, and he guided me through the angling world. And I have to say I've been quite fortunate over the years. I've won quite a lot of big competitions and whatever, and again fish for Cambridgeshire, and that's been sort of bred through us as well. As my son now sort of fishes for Browning hot rods, who are sort of semi-professionals, and I can't compete with him. He's just an outstanding angler. So I've sort of taught him what I know, and then he's moved on to the next level.
It's a generation thing. Great. Okay, we've done your very early life now. We've got you through to about the time where you were leaving school. Getting to that.
Yeah.
How did you end up as a groundsman, and where did you start?
I think again it's almost fate really. My dad used to work at Pies over at St Andrews Road. Used to play for Pies sort of as in their reserve team there, and just happened to bump into the groundsman there, and they were looking for an apprentice at the time. My dad sort of came back and said, "Oh, I've had a word with the groundsman over there. He's quite keen on you helping out round the ground." Because at the time I think I was 15 and I was playing for Pies in the Cambs League, which again was not the normal age to be playing. And I'd already sort of helped Bill Scott, who was the groundsman at the time. At the end I used to help take the nets down, and he actually made the inquiry as to whether I'd be interested. So knowing that I wanted an outside life really, I took him up on it. And again I was really fortunate. Bill spent a hell of a lot of time with me, encouraged me to do the correct things, even to the extent that I still remember one of them now, that on one afternoon the procedures used to be that after work, 10 to 5, you'd go in the shed, whatever tools you'd used, you would have to wash down and put a greasy cloth over them to ensure that they were ready for the next person to use. And I decided, it would have been about the end of April, that I wouldn't do that because Pies were playing away at Shelford. So I thought I'll smuggle the stuff back in the garage without him knowing, to which he went in there and went, "Excuse me?" Called me out and said, "What do you think you're doing?" "Well, I've got football tonight, Bill." He went, "You won't be going to football, and you will be staying now, and you can have every piece of machinery out and clean it." And I spent 2 hours having to clean the mowers, the forks, the shovels, and I've never ever forgot it. So there's a little hint that whatever you're doing in life, always make sure always make sure you wash your tools after use.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, let's talk about let's talk about your family. I believe United was not necessarily the first love.
All my family from the day I was born have been involved with Cambridge City. I think I was 3 years old, 3 days old, and come out on Mill Road, and I was up Cambridge City because my dad was playing for them. It then moved on that my mother was the secretary of Jack Gaal, who used to own the scrap merchant on Coldham's Lane, and Jack obviously became chairman of Cambridge City. And even in football then, it just shows you how scrupulous things were, because Jack had 50% of the shares but bought a 5% stake for my father. So whenever there was a casting vote required, my dad had to put his little vote in. And I can remember the days then when Jack Gaal was trying to get Cambridge United to amalgamate with Cambridge City, because he thought one club would be better than two, and obviously things could push ahead, but it didn't happen. But yeah, after that I became a ball boy up at Cambridge City, in sort of the days of Tommy Bickerstaff and Jerry Baker and all them being up there, and absolutely loved it. So yeah, I was one of those who was up Cambridge City, sort of in front of 12,000 people when games were abandoned because of the fog, when Di Ward was up there. And if you look at it now and you think, if Cambridge United drew Cambridge City, would we get 12,000? Very unlikely, but it was a common thing then.
Yep, yep. Well, we've heard of several games with more than 10,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And games being abandoned.
Yeah,
occasions as well. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. We've got you towards about 15 now, and you're working for Pies. You're a groundsman at Pies. You're learning your craft, learning your trade.
Yeah.
How long did that?
I did just over a 2 year, about 2.5 year apprenticeship at Pies before Jack Cook, who was a director here at the time, bumped into my father and said, "Oh, we've heard raving reviews about your son. We've got a groundsman's position come up at Cambridge United. Would you be interested?" So really just coming along for the experience of an interview. I appeared, not to be surprised really that the person who was interviewing was Tony Douglas, who is still a really good friend to this day. Still takes the mickey out of me about the interview, because at the time, if there was ever a time to take over being a groundsman here, it was the perfect time, because the pitch was absolutely appalling. There was a game going on here the day I had the interview, and it was literally a cloud of dust. So part of the interview was very, very entertaining on both fronts, because I'd got nothing to lose.
Absolutely. So you were only about, say about something like 18?
I started here just before my 19th birthday.
Quite daunting at that age?
To be honest, I think looking back on it now, it probably was, but it never felt it at the time. I think when you're that age, you just bite the bullet and get on with it. I've just sort of looked at it as a move in the right direction, and the pay packet of £3,800 for the year was something to look forward to, and obviously dealing with the amount of professionals that we were dealing with, because people forget the old Championship was really like the Premier League. Fantastic teams in there week in, week out, and to be preparing a pitch for players like that to attend and play on your surface was just simply outstanding.
So what was your first job? I mean, when you arrived at the pitch, as you say, it was a dust bowl, basically.
Yeah. So
how would you start on something like that?
It was quite interesting, because at the interview, Tony Douglas asked me the question, why is the pitch like this? And I had been in and had a look the day before with Les Holloway, who was the secretary, and I sort of dug a section of the pitch out, and it was just like concrete. Yeah. There was no air in the ground, it was totally compacted. So I just actually explained to Tony Douglas that should I lock him in a wardrobe and take the key away and go back to him in 5 days, he'd be a bit green round the gills. And he said, "I don't understand, Mr. Darler, why you're saying that to me." I said, "Well, that's what you've done to your pitch. It is totally locked up, it is compacted." And that's where we started. So we started to break up the playing surface straight away as soon as I started here, by hollow tining and getting some good quality sand products into the pitch. Because again, in those days, all they were doing was chucking on fen soil and rolling it. And so it was just getting harder and harder and harder. So we turned it round, and I have to say, within 4 months of the new season of 79-80, I was blessed by the compliments from the directors of Leicester City, who came out on the pitch, and the heading what Randall Butt wrote was "Directors amazed at playing surface at the Abbey," and it really set me on my way. It gave me the real appetite to do it every week.
Yeah, we had a comment from Rodney Slack, who's one of our group, who said that he never saw grass between about November to about March or April.
Well, Rodney Slack, when I started here, was also one of my secret weapons. I would phone Rodney on a Thursday afternoon and say, "Rodney, we're really in trouble. Prime example is a day like today, glorious sunshine, wind, baking our pitch. Rodney, I really need you to leave it with me, mate. I'm sure we can arrange something." And they would be doing a fire drill, so they'd set up the fire engine on over Barnwell Lake, chuck the bucket in, or chuck the basket in the lake, be pumping like Billy-O, flooding the pitch for me. "Can you attend a traffic accident at Quay Mill or Quay Roundabout?" "Bloody hell, get it packed up, everything away, we shouldn't be here, off we go." And that happened for 2-3 years. Rodney was absolutely outstanding. To which I'm sort of eternally grateful, because like that was one of the major things, was having some form of irrigation rather than a bloody half-inch hose pipe. I mean, people used to come in and wonder what the hell was going on. He'd have 3 sort of stands going on there, and the amount of water they pump on in an hour, absolutely incredible support that Rodney sort of gave me, and we've been good mates again for the best part of 40 years.
And he's still one of the characters in the Coconuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely one of us. Love them all to pieces. Okay, so there must have been characters, other characters in the club when you arrived. Give us a few names, throw a few names. And in your early days.
Right, how about starting my first day when the players came back, because obviously I started in pre-season, so I was greeted on players coming in on the first day by Malcolm Webster, Bill Garner and Gordon Sweetser. Malcolm Webster came over and went, "Hello mate, nice to see you, pitch looks amazing, thank you very much." Put his hand out to shake me hand, didn't shake me hand, it was a push because Bill Garner was behind my legs. So I was over on my backside with that. Bill Garner and Gordon Sweetser held my arms out. Malcolm Webster got hold of my legs and lifted me. And at the time I thought I was a bit of a fashion guru. It was the days of baggy jumpers and Starsky and Hutch and everything else. And they promptly hung me on the crossbar like a crucifix. And that was my first involvement with Mr. Webster, to which I thought any minute now they'll let me down. And I found out quite quickly that pre-season training here involved John Docherty getting the players to do what they called the common run, and they would run out the ground here, turn left, down the footpath across the common, down to the rifle butts, right around the common and back. And then I saw them come back jogging in here, and I thought, thank Christ for that, they'll get me down, because I still couldn't get out my jumper. And with that they got a bag of balls out and used me as target practice. And that was my introduction to Bill Garner and Malcolm Webster, and Malcolm just carried on doing it. I mean, he came to my wedding. He has been part of my life for the 36 years that I've been here. We had a little arrangement that the common run, which I've just mentioned, used to be common practice once a week. John Docherty used to stand on the staircase that used to be at the top of this stand here. You can just see the line. So he could stand there and watch all the players run round to make sure they weren't short-cutting when he had Pete Graham here. But what he never realised was Malcolm Webster would run down the corridor and get in my office, have a brew, and then when all the others came back, because Malcolm was always last, he'd put his head in the sink, make it look like he sweat, and then jog down the track back into the dressing rooms, and nobody ever twigged. So they were my early memories of my early days. And then obviously it moved on to when Chris Turner was here, which was absolutely outstanding in all aspects. You couldn't turn your back on him for 1 second. I think the first thing that comes to mind with Chris was I was carrying out a repair in the Dublin Suite toilets, and why I even went to the door to this day I still don't know, but somebody knocked on the toilet door, and I thought nothing of it, went to the toilet door to find Chris with a snowball probably 2.5 foot round, like a medicine ball that he could hardly carry, which he then smashed over my head. To which at the time I thought, you bastard. And I went up onto the roof of the toilets up there, and I made, because the old police box was up there, and I made the biggest snowball you've ever seen in your life, thinking when he comes past you I'm going to roll this on top of him, and if it kills him I don't give a shit. To which I found out that 20 minutes later he'd walk around the ground, went over there and said, "See you in the morning, Ian." And I thought, "You bloody git." So that sort of set up really for my biggest stunt probably to date.